Divine Rise. Blessed be to your day. Maybe everything you require to create everything that you desire. The title is right. The title is there. The title is just right. I wanted to talk about. I posted a video and I sent out that aspect. I think I'm gonna start doing that on Thursdays. Before we go into Friday, that day of love and embrace. There's thoughts as I do things. Before and after. But I want to talk about my first apology. I want to talk about my first apology. Also, we're going to do some live readings. 11/11 for the special, for the open up that gateway. My first apology and understanding the process of the gateway of gratitude. The gateway of gratitude is only found through apology. What's an apology? What's an apology? Which made me think about my first apology. My first apology to myself was garbage. My first few apologies to myself were garbage. Straight dumpster juice. Straight dumpster juice. But there was a reason for it. There was a reason that my first apology to myself was dumpster juice. It was garbage. It was not, I didn't get what I wanted. And that was partially the reason why, one second. Nah, fuck it. I'll shave it off later. I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't get what I wanted. My first apology to myself was garbage because I did not get what I wanted. I didn't get what I wanted out of the apology. The feeling that I thought I should have received out of said apology. The result that I felt I should have gotten based on my apology to myself. And that's why my apology was so garbage. I didn't know what an apology was. I didn't know what an apology was. At first, I thought an apology was you say that you're sorry, then you don't do it again. Because, which is true, but I didn't understand that since I didn't have that dialogue, since most of us never have this dialogue when we're younger of that process, we don't have these processes in dialogues. Usually whenever we were told, every time my mother would apologize to us, she would go buy us something. Or if my pops would apologize for something, he would buy us something. We would get something bought for us. We would be able to stay up a little bit later, go outside a little bit later. So the way that I was taught what an apology was basically on, you have to get something. You must receive something. You must give and you must receive something in order for the apology to be valid. And remember, as we're talking about these different variations of the shadow, we don't understand how detrimental that is to your healing process. I didn't understand how detrimental that was to my healing process. Because I'm sitting there apologizing with an expectancy automatically with a condition. An apology is a decree or the conversation to discuss change. To discuss in a state of comprehension. To come to a state of comprehension. To come to a state of clarity. An apology is not to seek closure. An apology is not to seek closure. An apology is not to seek what we feel is resolved, was really we're looking for a result. And understanding this it helped me peel back those layers and actually step into that gateway or that portal of gratitude with myself. Because I was not inside of that portal and that gateway of gratitude with myself. I still was holding things in. Fella riser. I still was holding things in. At the end of whenever I was apologizing, I'm still holding stuff in. So what was I apologizing for? Things still stayed the same. So what was I apologizing for? It was of no benefit to me. I can forgive, but I can't forget what happened. So what was the benefit of it? But I didn't understand what an apology was. That apology is that decree to invest into the changes so I can gain further comprehension and gain clarity of myself. Regardless of you forgive someone, you're not forgiving them for them. You're not thanking them for them. You're not apologizing to them for them. You're apologizing to them for yourself. Because regardless, that is where your first level of accountability comes in. Regardless, if you apologize into that space. So when I was thinking about the first apology to myself being garbage, it's because I wasn't ready to, there were so many things that I wasn't ready to forgive. There were so many things on the table that I wasn't really ready to face. There was regret, there was these aspects of regret. There was doubt. There was disbelief. There was this separation that would happen. That fear of the separation. That fear of abandonment. That fear of, if they get mad, how am I going to react? This fear of going back and forth. There was so many, when we're thinking about that first apology, it's not like when I talk about, this week in the God Hour podcast, when we talked about you're not scared of their perception changing of you. You're not scared of their perception changing of you. You're not even scared of your perception of you changing in them. That true aptitude of fear that we fear in this context of the apology is that I have to invest into learning what are the roots to my perspective. That means I got to go back. That means I got to accept that everything that I was doing at this point in time was based on where I was at, but not where I was. That's two different places. That's two different places. Where you're at and where you are two different places. Because you can be at every party. You can be at every party, every event, every venue, every club, everybody's house, everywhere. You can be everywhere. Where you are with yourself, that's something totally different. See, that first apology is to acknowledge where you are. That first apology is to acknowledge where you are. To take accountability for where you are. That's what it's always been. When I think about every virus and every pressure that was been applied, it's always been to the same exact narrative. All the way until you get hit with this, you had to go sit down in the house with yourself, and you really had to look at yourself. You were really exposed for about 30, maybe 60. Some people had longer. You had to sit down with yourself and really be exposed to yourself. What you really were. What you really were about. All of those glamours that you used, or all of the points that you used outside of yourself that kept that glamour going, started fading away. You didn't have them anymore. That access, the reason why you go there, the reason why you're at all of those places, to keep that perception going, all of that went away. And what you were left with was your perspective. What you were left with what you were left with was your perspective, where you was at, where you were in real life. Because you didn't have the job anymore. So now when you're sitting at the house, this entire stream of thought in your mind, you were like, I'm not lazy. I work. Now you sitting at the house. Now that pile of clothes, grr, I ain't gonna do it hard. That pile of clothes, that laundry list, that list of things you've been needing to do, that business you've been wanting to start, that online course you've been wanting to take, all of those things were sitting there on that same table. They didn't appear out. Remember, just like I always talk about emotion. Like I talk about emotion. Anger don't come out of nowhere. You just don't get angry. It's anchored to something. Exactly. Your anger is anchored to something. That doubt, that guilt, that regret, that it's anchored to something. And the only way to access it is that apology. Is that true apology to yourself. See, I wasn't ready to get to that anchor and pull that anchor up and cast off down the river Styx. I wasn't ready to do that. So every time that I had an apology to myself, I had to think about every time that I apologized to myself, I wondered why every apology that I ever came up with, or every time I said sorry to people or anything of that nature, I was saying this to people in what I really was saying. I had to really sit with what I really was saying. Whether I sat in front of a mirror, whether I recorded myself on my phone, recorded myself, no matter what it was, I know I had to sit there and do it. Because I had no other choice. This is what we're talking about when we talk about gateways, portals. Whenever someone talks about the full moon ritual, we're doing a full moon ritual, and they say the energy is good before and after, 3 days before and 3 days after. All of these processes are to help you get out of this synchronization, to get you in sync with you and where you are at, not where you're trying to go. That means if you're sitting there always waiting for, I'm waiting till the next full moon ritual to cleanse myself. What are you doing before then? What is your preparation beforehand? I'm just going to wait till then. Then anything that happens, happens then. Then what about after that? What about after that? Because if you weren't prepared beforehand, you're definitely not prepared after. You're definitely not prepared after. See, that's the power of the apology. The apology forces you to look back and look at the current. The apology forces you to look back. Let's go back over here somewhere. Let's go to the first time you saw somebody say sorry, or how you learned how somebody apologized. Some of you are holding on to the way that your mother apologized. I remember holding on to the way that my mother apologized, and that ultimately became one of the factors that when I was in relationships, when I was at my job, with anything of the feminine narrative, that feminine energy, that's the way I needed it. That's the way I needed the apology to happen. You got to give me something in order for me to stay who I am. That's the reality of it was I wanted to stay who I was. I'm going to stay who I am. You can apologize to me because I'm deserving of it. That was entitlement. Remember, I always say you're deserving, but you're not entitled. See, because when you think about an apology, as closure. Shuts it off. We ain't using it no more. We ain't going there no more. An apology is not closure. It's clarity and It's clarity in the comprehension. It's the investment into what was said into that space. It's bringing it to the table. If it's going to be an argument, let it be an argument. It's needed. It's not going. An apology that I had to learn was, it's not based on, okay, cool, let's say everything. Here's everything that I'm sorry for. Here's some good reasons to why I'm sorry for it. But usually those reasons that I was sorry for it was because You did this, so I did this. So naturally, as you remove these layers and I start seeing that apology with myself, I'm like, even if the apology ended in the separation, that means the ending of something, the end of a friendship, the job, the relationship, the apology, whatever it is, no matter what it was. That's how I learned how to deal with it. I was like, so to apologize is to end. Mm-hmm. As long as, yeah, you can. You can still be angry. Like, after the apology, you can still be angry. You can still be depressed. You can still feel insecure as hell. The key is, after that apology, and that anger still exists, or whatever emotion is still seeping to the top, how are you facing it? How are you facing it? How are you dealing with it? I should never, when I thought about apologizing to my first real apology to myself, first true apology to myself, I felt like shit. I felt disheartened. I felt defeated. I felt dirty. I felt like I needed to go sit in the shower and just let the water hit me. I felt dirty. But the only reason that I knew that this apology was actually applied to the true process is because I felt those things. See, at first when you apologize, a lot of times you apologize for being angry, but you're not really angry. You think that you're angry because that's what's relevant or present at that time. But the emotion doesn't come. You're not angry at that point in time. You're not angry all over again. That anger is a result from something that it's anchored to. Because 9 times out of 10, when you start apologizing, oh, see, you don't want to listen to me, and y'all start going back and forth, what's the first thing that you do? You go bring up something from 2003, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, 16. You bring up something from last week. You keep bringing up shit that's you keep bringing up unresolved points. You keep bringing up the unresolved points. Also, you can come into here like, that's why I can't apologize. That's why I can't forgive you. But then you have to understand, when you keep saying that, you're only that mirror image or that perception. You're only talking to yourself. You're only holding that to yourself. So if I say I cannot forgive someone, what I'm really saying to myself is I can't forgive myself for some shit. So let alone can I forgive you, but I can't tell you that. Because to tell you that will make me vulnerable. And I'm scared of being vulnerable. I'm scared of being in a vulnerable state because everything else that I got locked into that locked behind that door that I call vulnerability, that's made me strong up to this point. I got to sit with it. I got to go sort through that. And I got too many things on the table that I'm going to lose. So now you're thinking about the physical aspects of what you're about to lose. But you're not even understanding that shit got to stay for that to stay. That's what you're telling yourself. My mom still got to not be shit in order for me to be who I am. So now, in that same instance, your mom is not taking accountability. She still guilt tripping you and all these good things. So guess what you start doing? You start doing the same thing. In your own way, shape, and fashion, because those guilt and regrets that you're holding on to, those become the lies the words that you start to speak. So now you're speaking at that tone. You're acting just like your mother in the emotional wavelength, on the same frequency. Peace and power, peace and power. The way that you're avoiding things, the way The way that you're avoiding things, you don't face things. It's just like how your mother do it. The way that your father avoids things, didn't face things, is the same way that you're doing it. The same way that your father, the masculine concept in your space that gave you the thought and the theory of hold that shit in, we don't let anybody outside of us know that shit. That same narrative is what you are using to hold that shit in. So now when you're talking about your ingratitude and you haven't done the apology, the gratitude, Lakshmi, any prosperity deity that you want to work with, you want to, I want to remove obstacles, let me work with Ganesh. Guess what they're going to remove? They're going to force you into that space of surrender. They force you into that space of submission. Because that's what happens in your everyday life, in every relationship that you've ever been in. Where the job forces you to submit. You become what you hate the most. Your job forces you to submit to get the hours and the paycheck. In order for you to feel that you have a sense of power, in order for you to feel a sense of power in correspondence, when you go to the grocery store or when you go to the store, you tell them, hey, I'm not paying for this because it's dented. Also, you can try to get that false sense of control back. Your job forces you to submit to make a paycheck. You meet other people that are not doing the same thing as you. They making money other streams of thought to make money. You looking at them like, you got to do it this way. Because that's the only way that I acknowledge. You see how you just keep that cycle going with yourself? All because you won't apologize to you. All because you won't sit down with you. All because you don't want to look at you. You've built an entire world. It's nothing about that world that is the positives and the negatives. You've done great things and you've done some negative shit. But you must apologize to yourself to own these things. Because these are the aspects that will run your life. See, when we're thinking about going from the internal, then we're creating our space. Everything, you already did it. You've already done it. A lot of times, because of that factor of an accessory, a degree, the job, I got like 19, I got my onyx, I got crystals, I rock my stones, I do this, this, and this. That's an external source. That's the external aspect. Because now you're applying that and then it doesn't fit in that old space. Because that job was based upon fear, survival. Now you're saying that you're in gratitude. You got to apologize for how you believed to yourself that you thought you had to survive. Why I had to believe, why did I believe for so long that I had to do it this way? This old ideal of success. It's written in the Bible. The kids shall go against their parents. But you look at it from an external sense. Yeah, they're going against you're the original parent. Let's go up high. You're the original parent. What do you think everything down here is doing? It's in opposition to you. It's in opposition to you because you haven't owned it. That's what it's ownership. That apology is that ownership with self. And allowing yourself to go to where you are at. Your definition of success was, I'm supposed to, okay. And then when it didn't work, in order to keep yourself on lockdown, you wanted to suffer. You felt you had to suffer even more. Because you think suffering is sacrifice. Two different things. Sacrifice is the releasing of. The letting go of that, it will be letting go of that entitlement. What I thought I was entitled to based on what I've been through, that's the sacrifice. Sacrificing that face card. That sacrificing that I'm trying to be the best parent ever. The best son, the best boyfriend, the best girlfriend, the best whatever. But if my relationship with myself is not in order, this is the house that needs to be in order, then every other house that I go into will be in disorder. Every other house I'm going to go into is going to be in disorder. This ain't in order. There's a fluidness. I was thinking about it on my walk yesterday. There's a fluidness to when it's naturally a part of your process and you trying to put on a show. Like, I'll use an example. When I would go to work, when I would go to my job, my process of going to the back, getting my apron, getting my towels, changing out my sanitation bucket, cleaning up my station, putting dishes in the dishwasher, cleaning up my space, getting my shit ready for my shift was natural. It was a natural flow to it. It wasn't something of me trying to prove it to anybody or trying to make myself look good. It was just natural motion. I know that it was natural motion because half the time it takes me 30 minutes to do it and I don't even realize 30 minutes have elapsed. See, when you stuck in that aspect of not the natural process to yourself, you need that. You seek the recognition as your stimulation. You seek the reasoning outside. You seek an external reasoning to your logic, to what you're imitating. So now you're stuck in imitation. Because if you're stuck in creation, that's gratitude, that's the openness, that's the being aware. To be stuck in that left side of your brain, that's that looking for the reason or the logic to whatever you're doing. Every time that you do something, you look for recognition to your logic. Your why you did it. You always looking for that. So even when you don't get it, since it's still locked into your mind, guess what you keep doing? Even when it's not there, it's there. Even if they didn't do what you said they did, it's there. Even if they did it and they apologize for it, they're working on it. They're visibly working on it. You will not be able to see that vision because your suffering has locked your sight on one stream of thought. One way of it happening. One way of it happening. It only can come this way. Once they do this, damn everything else that they do. They've shown me their worth. But I give you the question, why would you stay? If my job is not shit, they're not paying me, all of these things, why would I stay? Damn, because I need a job. I need to pay bills. I need to do these things. So it's not even about the job. It's your accountability. Your job is only in control of the four walls. Or if you work from home, they only in charge of what comes through your computer screen or through your phone. That's all they're in charge of. That's all they're in charge of. That's all they're in charge of. You're in charge of your budget, your accountability in your budget, how you make your money, when you make your money. You're in charge of how you do that. You're in charge of when you leave out of that building, whether you call an Uber, you got to walk home, you hop in your car. There's always something. Those are your levels of accountability. When you hop in the Uber, you got to pay this motherfucker the money. You got to pay that motherfucker the money to get you to where you need to get to, or you ain't going to get there. So is it their fault if they don't get you to where you need to go? If you got to walk and it's raining and it's your accountability to look at, oh shit, nigga, I did see on the forecast it was going to rain. I thought it was going to be off earlier than this. You should have brought the umbrella. If you drive and you got to go get gas and you know that you are a $5 fill up, or now we had $10 fill ups, a $10 fill up, you got a big ass truck, you a $20 fill up, whatever you are, you know you got to fill your tank. That's your accountability. So is it your job's fault that you took the money that you knew that it took $80 to fill up your tank? I'm going for a personal experience. Was it my job fault that I bought a truck that cost $90 to fill up on premium gas? It costs almost $95 for me to fill up the tank. Is it my job to make sure that I make at least $100 to make it to work? No. No, it's not their job. I can blame them because that's what I'm used to doing. But eventually when I apologize, I'm just stressed out. You know, I had to put gas, man, I'm going through a lot of things. And then every time you apologize, it comes with conditions to why you're apologizing. So you can have a sense of closure. See, when we think about that apology, you're not doing it from a sense of closure. You're doing it as a sense of comprehension and clarity. Comprehension and clarity. To understand, Mike, to sit in your perspective. If every time you wake up, you know when you wake up, okay, cool, I got to go to work at 9:30. I got to go to work at 10. I got to go to work at 12. I know I got to go to work at this time. But I've been telling myself that I want to get back into the gym. I've been telling myself I need to meditate. I've been telling myself I need to do something to set the tone of my day. But I keep waking up at 11. Or I keep waking up an hour before I got to go to work. Whose fault is that? Damn, if I had to go to work, I would have more time. That's what you keep telling yourself. If I had more, okay. So now you get more time, but now you get more time, you get that bonus, or you get those extra hours. What do you do with it? I'm deserving of treating myself. So how do you treat yourself? This is an ongoing cycle. When y'all want to talk about the black dollar, we want to talk about the black dollar. We want to talk about how we don't invest into the community. The first community is me. The first community was me. The first relationship was me. Therefore, the first community was me. So naturally, the first apology is going to put me in opposition with a lot of things that are outside of me. It's going to put me at odds with a lot of the beliefs and the practices and the learned behaviors and the patterns that I've invested in. Because then I'm about to invest into me. So that anxiety, that fear, that doubt, that shame, that guilt for feeling that I'm too fucking old to heal. I'm too fucking old to heal. It's too late for me. That same lack mentality, that's what I'm in opposition of. That's my enemy. The latest version of myself. So if I'm looking through the latest version of myself, that is all my guilt, all my insecurities, all of my wounds, me dressing my shit up to look really, really nice, what would I see? What would I see in my world? If I know I have unresolved emotional issues, and I know that that is what I'm going to be seeing through, what would I see inside of my world? Nothing that I can have gratitude over. Nothing I want to have gratitude about. Nothing that I would openly choose, but I choose it every day. That's that two sides of the same coin. I choose that shit every single fucking day. Because every time I get, what do I need to do? And then I can intellectualize it. I can intellectualize it. All day, I intellectualize it. Yeah, it's the knowledge of self. I got to get to the power of myself. Who is yourself? Who is yourself? When's the last time that you actually, one of the biggest things that I give out to clients is, when the last time that you actually looked in the mirror? I don't mean glance to check your makeup or glance to check your lineup. I mean you legit stood in the mirror and just looked at yourself. Gazed upon what you say that you are. When's the last time you had a conversation with yourself that was not from the point of blame, external, blame and only take half of the fault, but in a real sense of acceptance? That gives you the power of that first apology. That gateway. While we are here, if you looked at the top of this page, I said, we're going to do some readings. I'm going to put the price right here above my Cash App link. Paste. There it goes. Right there. Ta-da! We're going to do some readings. 11/11 is the special for the reading live. Get that live reading done. No matter how deep we don't get into it, we don't get deep into it. You've been in this aspect with yourself. When I made that video today, it's on my TikTok, and I sent it out to I just blasted everybody on Messenger. I'm thinking the first 12 people. I was really thinking about my first apology. Legit, real time, thinking about my first ever apology to myself. And as I opened up with, my first apology was garbage. I was still looking for an escape. I was still looking to blame somebody. So that apology can make me feel good. But your grandmother told you it ain't about feeling good, it's about feeling better. It ain't about feeling good, it's about getting better. Let me look right here real quick. Make that go like that. All right, cool. But yeah. While everybody's gathering, if you're interested in a reading, if you're interested in a reading, Cash App link, it's 11/11. Drop 11/11 in the Cash App link. Let me know once you've done it. Drop your so I can see who it's who in there to the and then we can start that. But as we're doing that, I'm gonna do a nice little collective real quick. Nice little collective reading. Pull a couple cards, read a couple energies. If that resonates with you and you want to go deeper into that reading, same difference. But we gotta understand this process. Why the healing process is so destructive. We say love is the highest frequency, but love is also destructive. We know from first-hand experience that love is a destructive aspect. It's what you're deciding. The thing that stops you from accepting that love is a destructive cycle or healing is destructive are the things that you're trying to hold on to based in that aspect of how you were taught love. If you look and think about your dad leaving the house, you thought about your dad leaving, and you're still holding on to that thought. I had to think about this. My dad didn't leave. But if you think about something as simple as your dad leaving the house, leaving the family, or your mom leaving, never showing up. In reality, I want you to understand this is how we start getting into these traumas. In reality, that was the best thing that they could do for you based on what they were going through. Though they may have done it through avoidance or they done it through guilt or whatever it was, you got to understand that was the best thing that they believed to be able to do for you. Ultimately. Because if you look back, if every time you went to go meet your pops, or go meet your mom, or go meet your dad, or go meet them, you were met with guilt, insecure, you were met with guilt, you were met with frustrations, anger, doubt, and all of that aspect, then wouldn't you think that them not being present was positive and not negative? This is how we start changing these processes. Because until I had something that you realizing that you're ultimately going to do the things that your mother has done in the equivalent into your life, to your kids, in some way, shape, or form. You're going to do that same thing to your significant other in some way, shape, or form. The thing that happened to you that you have not faced or dealt with, the biggest mistake that happened in your life, the biggest mistake that happened inside of your life, you're going to use that as a catalyst to set the conditions of compliances to take you as you are. That's not, so now basically every time you apologize, you have something to go back to. You have something, you have that stopper. Well, I told you here, here, and here, this was me. Yes. But you never told me the why. Because here's the trippy part. The reason that you stay is because you still want to know the why. Think about it. Wait a minute. Because you still want to know the why. You still want to see the why. But you want to see that why to avoid your why. That's why you would stay. That's why you stay so long. In the same instance of why you try to leave. You don't want to see the why because that why can possibly change everything that you ever thought about yourself. You don't want to, you want to see the why so you can stay who you are. You still on that same space. You stay on that frequency. You stay on that bar with yourself. Teetering back and forth on that thought process. Over and over and over again. I did it. Stay at a job. Even though I stay at a whole job. Even though I'm saying to the job that they're not paying me and all of these things. Why do I stay? Because anything's better than nothing. So as long as I'm getting something, I don't have to assess myself. I don't have to take accountability because I'm receiving something. And if I need more, that means anything that comes into the space is supposed, anything that naturally comes into my space is supposed to be bringing me more of what I want. So it's only a body. I've talked about this shit before. The body, we don't get into this tomorrow night on the body, but we talk about the body snatchers. It's only a body. That's all it serves the purpose as. It's a body. I'm going to dump my emotions into that body. I'm going to make it feel. How do I make that shit feel that way? By doing what was done to me. In order for me to avoid it being done to me, I'll do it to them. And I'll call it something else. All of these points that we keep, all of these points you get stuck in on that wheel. You don't want nobody to do something to you, but when you get upset, you do that exact thing or in the equivalent. Now you go do it. Now you call yourself, I don't want to, okay, cool. But you got to own up to what it really is. You're living out your trauma. You're living out what hurts you. You just living it out. You existing through it. That's what you use as your catalyst in order for you not to change. That's what you use as your catalyst for you to stay the same. To stay fake angry, even though you're not angry, you're just insecure. To stay fake sad, you're not sad. You just have, you have a narcissistic trait you don't want to deal with. You just want to keep it what it is, to say what it was, and say nobody understands you. All because you don't want to apologize to yourself and say, hey, I don't know myself. I can intellectualize who I am. I can intellectualize what I've been through. I can even intellectualize to the surface some of the feelings. But to really sit with the feeling, to really discuss the feeling, that's a whole different process. That's trusting the process. That's you being able to see why you are where you are versus trying to maintain where you're at. That at is the perception. That where you are is your perspective. And you will continue to, as long as you try to stay neutral to where you are with yourself, You will always project an anchor from that point. So it don't matter what you do, where you go, what you acquire, because it's all rooted to the same things, to that same argument, to the same points, to the same thing that got you. Okay, there's 3 points. And I'm going to say it on out in the close as I do this read. There's 3 points. I had to understand these 3 points, 3 main major points. The only reason that I believed that I was of a high value, or my value, was only based on because I felt like I felt chosen. I felt everybody wanted to come back. I felt I had something everybody wanted. I felt everybody fucked with me. But in reality, when I sat with myself, the only reason I felt chosen was because I stayed in places where I literally looked like I was top tier. Big fish, small pond mentality. The only reason that everybody came to me in that sense is because everybody wanted something from me, is because I could intellectualize that of what it was inside of that space, in that low value space. The reason I had something that everybody wanted was I could intellectualize the process of, if you know, you got to put in this work. But my fear, because I didn't really put in the work, projected as, if I tell them, then they'll outshine me. They'll look better than me. They'll get accepted more than me. They'll start rejecting me. And the only reason that everybody fucked with me is because they didn't want to fuck with themselves. Those are the true reasons to why I wasn't apologizing, why I wasn't changing, why I wasn't going forward with myself. Why every time that I sat in a space where I had an opportunity, I always found a reason, I always found some way to self-sabotage the opportunity. Because it was the fear of the new standards and the perspective I had to face. The new stability, my standard, they weren't based on an external. They were really internal, my perspective. So I had to change the way that I was eating, I was sleeping. I had to change those narratives. And until I accepted until I accepted this train of thought, whenever I was reading on to certain things, I could intellectualize it. I could make it sound real, real good. But it was not really connected to me. It was still based on the same acceptance, the same wanting to be seen, the same wanting to have something that everybody wanted, those same narratives, the same points. Until I let go of those points and looked at myself. I'm not doing this for this. I'm setting this tone because I need, where I'm at right now, I do not like where I'm at. But I own where I'm at. I don't like the thoughts that I keep having, but I'm going to own these thoughts. Because I have to own these thoughts in order to change these thoughts. I don't like the patterns that I keep investing into. But in order for me to change those patterns, I must own those patterns. I don't like the behavior, how mad I get, or how off the hinge that I get. But I got to own that shit in order to work on it. That's the level of that's accountability. That's trusting the process. That's getting into your shadows. That's doing this work. That's understanding that this work is never over. It is the path. It is walking through that. That is your path. That's learning those processes so you can now transmute. But it all started with an apology. It all started with an apology. It all started with me being real honest with myself in that apology. Acceptance, yes, the acceptance of you. It all started with the apology and the acceptance within inside of myself. It all came into me trusting the aspects of that process. Until I went through that, I was only going to keep doing the same thing. Every time something came up that felt good, this is how you know when you're not within the aspects of gratitude. Well, my personal experience of not being in process of gratitude. Every time something good comes up, everything you did up to that point, you stop. That means if you were going to the gym because you had self-esteem issues to get bigger, the moment that somebody notices you going to the gym, you stop going to the gym. You might go to the gym still, but you're going to stop the discipline that went into that workout until eventually it fades away. Because you got something that you got what you wanted. That job pay you $100 grand. I'm gonna pay you $100 grand. All right, cool. All that shit fine and dandy until they like, hey, in order for you to keep making this money, you're gonna have to move. We gotta send you to another building. We gotta send you to another job site. Because we can't pay you here. Now you gotta accept, am I really about to leave? In some places, from some points, from a state of avoidance, you may leave. Because at a point in time, you might feel like, yeah, this might be the best choice for me because the way shit going on down here, everything all crazy, everybody toxic, and you leave. But until you face what it was, guess what you're going to do? You're only going to go move to go find that same thing there. Everywhere I go, motherfuckers hating on me. Everybody want to do this type of bullshit to me. Okay, cool. That's nice. That's great. That's cool. But it's time to be honest with yourself. Because I did that. I did that shit all the fucking time. Every place became the same place. Mentally, every place was the same place. Every relationship was the same relationship. Every friendship was the same friendship. Every job was the same job. Everything was the fucking same. Because I wasn't investing in the changes in the self. So it didn't matter what gateway portal I opened up, what I did, if I wasn't applying to what came through in the truest aspects to me, where I was at, who I are, not where I was at, but where I was at that point in time, it didn't matter. So now, of course, when challenges come up, now it challenges your, oh my God, I'm supposed to be this way. Okay, cool, that's nice. You're supposed to be what way? All right. I was supposed to be here 4 years ago, Grand Rising. I was supposed to be there 2.5 years ago. I was supposed to be here 3.5 years ago. What was your process to get there? Now I can ask myself that question. Every time your ego comes up with the timeline or the time clock, ooh, you're supposed to be doing this, you shut down that entitlement by saying, what is my process? I learned to shut that. What is my process? Cool, we can be there, but what's the process? That's some of the most disheartening shit that you can say to yourself. But it's the most disheartening, but it's the most positive shit you gonna say to yourself. See, when we think about self, we don't get deep into this when we get into body snatches tomorrow. But when we're thinking about the aspects of positive self-talk versus negative self-talk, that positive self-talk you're gonna give to yourself is going to be in opposition to the entitlement. It's gonna be in opposition to that shit. So it may sound harsh. It may sound ooh, that shit hurt. It may make you go sit down in the living room. I've talked about this story before. I remember the first time I told myself some real shit. Some honest, cutthroat shit to myself. I was sitting in the living room for about 8.5 hours in the dark, listening to the Kid Cudi album. The first one. I didn't even know what. Sitting there, bottle of water that's sitting beside me, just sitting there. because I was sitting in that darkness. I'm like, nigga, I'm sitting in the darkness. Because it forced me, when I came up out of that space, I knew I needed to change some shit. That's what these moments that happen inside of your life happen. You're protected to a point. So like, let's use aspect, we're going to get deep into this tomorrow. We talk about the body snatchers. When you see in the multitudes of death and things that's happening to everybody and all this shit, calamities happening, and what does it bring up with you? That I should be here, I should be there, I should be doing this, I want to do. All of that shit comes up. But that's when you got to sit with it. Why aren't you? And then you got to sit with it even deeper. Why aren't you? Well, I got this. Okay. Now you got to go back to that. I'm still trying to give these people what I never had. The truest aspect of what you never had is the initial investment that you keep skipping over. That investment into that internal work with yourself. Because regardless, that becomes the unconditional. When I started doing that internal work, that became the unconditional that I was seeking. That became the unconditional love that I was seeking. I no longer was seeking the lie to love me. I no longer was seeking that lie to love me, that this is the way that I am, you must accept me. I was no longer accepting that from myself. So now I could see when it was being projected into that space. My body was no longer being snatched and weighted down by so many energies. And that's that process. But let me do this clarity reading. Let me do a quick all-together reading real quick. First card off the top is the High Priestess. The High Priestess. The High Priestess is the grown-up version of the Empress. The grown-up version of the Empress. The mother of the wife of the Emperor. Representing owning that nurturing and guidance. You're in a space right now, when we talk about this collectively, you're in a space right now where you are coming into a sense of ownership of yourself. You're having those, I'm feeling, because I'm seeing that aspect of the foolish man coming up. Remember, when I read cards, I read the energy and use them to illustrate. Whenever I look at the aspects of the foolish man beside the High Priestess, I automatically think about, is the new ownership that I'm taking inside of myself, is this new nurturing with is this new way that I'm learning how to capitalize keeping my emotions in balance and in check. What does that mean for my path? What does that mean for my choices in my path going forward? That's told in the aspects of the Ten of Cups. The 10 is after the 9, meaning the aspects of perfected success. The only reason that you're able to sit inside of this position and stand on that square of this new sense of ownership, the only reason you're able to sit on that square with this new sense of ownership with yourself is because all of the things that you used to pour into, they've all started to overflow. They no longer can be filled. All of the spaces that you've been pouring your energy into, they no longer can be filled. They no longer can be filled the way that you were fulfilled. That shit's not working anymore. It's not going to work anymore. What you were seeking based on fulfillment, you're now looking at yourself. This is that time where you're looking at with those new emotions in your path to where you're at. You're now looking like, why was I looking for that outside? Why was I looking to make this outside of me? What about me? This is when I'm always talking about track records. You may have created it, you may have built it, you may have done it. You may have used the same methods to get to where you got to, but you're now here. And you're like, why can't I go any forward using the same methods? And you're still on the external sense. Maybe I need more. No. I'm here to let you know you need less. You need less of that chatter outside of you. That's what the path of the fool is. The path of the fool is a lonely one. Because the fool doesn't subject to anyone. We think about the fool does not subject to anyone. But that's the aspect of the path of the wise man as well. That goes into the aspects of the princess of cups. Or the princess or the pages of cups. This is an opportunity. That now that all of your old cups are filled, all of the old cups have been filled, they're overflowing, you can't fill them up the same way, this is an opportunity to look at your cup. I always talk about you've always been abundant, you've always been prosperous, you've always been these points. But what is your life abundant in right now? When you wake up, what is your life? When you wake up, what is your life abundant in right now? What are you abundant in right now emotionally? What emotions are you feeling the most of right now? Why are you feeling those emotions? This is that time of you assessing those emotions. You're in that space, on that square, to look at those aspects of those emotions, why you're feeling them. It's time to really get down to beyond the surface, because when we think about cups and overflow, you're automatically thinking about shit being flooded. Now it's time to really look at, it's time to go beyond the surface. See, a lot of times we get stuck in that space because of the doubt, the guilt, all that shit on the surface, and it's anchored to something. We're still trying to make us do what we need to do. That goes into the Three of Cups. That represents the three eternal conflicts. That's what I just said with the Princess of Cups. Is the opportunity to assess that original cup. There's three cups inside of you. There's that masculine, there's that feminine, and then there's you. The 3 points are you. The energy that you subscribe to fills these two cups. These cups may start to overflow, but they're only based on the energy that you're putting into yourself. That's that trinity with yourself. So if you have not looked into your masculine self, that masculine as part of yourself, the way that you used to know, the perception of what you used to know, what you used to think. Now you're being switched into a position where it's an opportunity to look at how does that process affect me now? Is this process based on where I was or where I'm at? See, I remember a lot of times I would be stuck in these processes with myself. I'd be stuck in these processes with myself, and I'm like, but it used to work. You got to think about your space now. There's elements inside of your space right now that don't subscribe to that don't subscribe to how you used to subscribe. Just as simply inside of your habits. The way that you used to use certain aspects to your advantage. The way that sometimes we use our basics to our advantage, our basic skills to our advantage, that's all that they are. They're basic skills. Those moves don't make you any better. You have some, okay, that's your, congratulations, you're adulting. That doesn't make you any better or any less than anybody else. These are some of the processes that we have to look at when we're looking into those cups. When you're looking into yourself like, damn, I do this because of this, or I did that because of this. I was only doing this because I was bored, or I was only doing this because I was tired, or I was doing this because of this. It's time for the new process. You're coming into this new space, it's time for new processes. It's time for the new investment. You spent 87 years, 87 months, all this time doing the external investment because it gave you a sense of standing up to yourself. But as you're noticing now, as I'm seeing in that card, when I look at that King of Pentacles, as you're seeing right now, that external instance, it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't really doing anything. You were just maintaining that level so you could stay where you were at. But now that that's no longer present, now you looking at yourself like, what have I been doing all this time? That's usually what happens when we go into that apology with ourselves. What have I been doing this entire time? I really haven't, what have I been doing? And then you start looking at, then this is where we also get into that space, because it's a tricky space for those cubs. Because you start looking at the space of trying to make all of this the reason for all of this. I've been doing all of this, going hard, so I deserved all of these things. But if I'm doing all of this from a state of avoidance, then everything I'm doing outside of that is based on a state of avoidance. That's how they stay in balance. That's how it exists. That's how you stay in that. Remember, I always say this. You're always in balance. You've always been in balance. It's time to assess the scale. It's time to assess the scale. All the years of that, all the years of the belief in the training, you're like, oh my God, but why? Just cause. All of that over and over and over again to do what? All of that for what? And then we look at the aspects of that 401. I pulled that bitch in reverse. That 401 represents that you're not sitting with yourself. You getting information. You have the information in pocket. You have the information in hand. You have it there. You're like, okay, here's the information. But you're not using, you're not applying it. You have the opportunity, but you're not applying to it. It's like having the job offer. It's like you already have the job offer, but you won't sit. They say all you got to do is send in your resume. That's all you got to do. But you won't send it in because you fear that it's going to change everything. I'm going to have to move. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. That was what you wanted. See, that's when we go into that space of when you want something, but you haven't created the plan for it. So when you get it, you like, I don't know what to do with it now. That's where you at right now. That goes to the aspects of what you've been pouring into yourself. That's what temperance is. The aspects of what you've been pouring into yourself. In order to avoid what you've been needing to do, it's coming up in what you've been pouring into yourself. It can be your eating habits. It can be your sleeping habits. It can be your music choice. It can be whatever it is. Guaranteeing in this point of where you at right now, the only reason that you've been doing it is because it was to avoid the next step. It's to avoid the next phase. You can't avoid this phase any longer. Because all you're going to do is keep pouring that same shit into yourself. And then you're going to end up in that same conflict. Which way should I go? Which way should I do it? Why am I not? Because you're looking for the result before you get into it. As I always say, this process is the shedding. You look at automatic. This is the thing when we do not know something and we fear the unknown. You know everything you need to know right now at this very moment. The only thing that what you do not know, what you projecting based on what you do not know, it comes up in that defeat. It comes up in defeat. That means you're looking at the what ifs could happen if you make that step. If that outweighs where you truly are, you gotta assess where you get. That's the only thing that teaches you. If I'm always looking at things based on where I'm at, and if I make this step, what I need to get to, what I need to do to get to it, and that outweighs where I'm really at, where I'm truly at, that means I need to assess where I'm at. That means I need to sit with where I'm at now. That's why I'm in that position, that slide. Think about that hill. I don't have to go. You've been used to running uphill. You've been used to fighting against odds. You've been used to fighting against the ops and doing all of it. You've been used to pushing up against things your entire life. But in the reality, the only reason that you've been running up the hill and rolling back down is because at this moment in time, it's time for that level of assessment with yourself. You keep trying to run. Ooh, I got to get up there to the... Okay. Last card represents the aspects of nurturing. Queen of Wands represents nurturing that current decision. If that decision has you in that much disarray, and you thinking about that many what ifs, which means, just going to the example. Let's say you're thinking about getting that new job, but you're sitting there thinking to yourself, if I get this new job, then I'll lose my seniority at my old job. I lose my credibility. I lose all my credits if I go get this new job. You got a decision to make. It's all in the aspects of the interest of your growth. You see that apology? It forces you to look at the aspects based on growth, not simply just being. A lot of times we get stuck in that just being. Okay, cool, based on this, this, and this, I guess that's what's next. But we're not thinking about growth. You're not thinking about expansion. Because in the reality to it, when it comes into nurturing that plan, when I talk about that plan, that structure, that stability, that standard, that process, it lets you understand that, yo, I can own where I'm at right now. I'm good where I'm at right now. Because from this position, I'm able to do everything that I need to do. From this position, I'm able to take accountability for everything that I do from this position. Because a lot of times when we try to make that jump, when we're making these jumps to these moves, because we feel like we're not in the right position, you got to remember, everything that you thought that you knew is only going to be the projection into that space. So it's not going anywhere. Let you know now, it's not going anywhere. It don't matter as long as I wasn't facing that shit, it wasn't going anywhere. And the last card is going to be the sun. The rays on your space, in your peace. Where you are inside of your current aspect. Where you're at with yourself. What inside of your space is based on teaching you the old concepts, based on the concepts of recognition versus the real concepts of support. Remember, there's a difference between support and recognition. We talk about that all the time. Support is in the aptitude of growth. Recognition is in the aspects of complacency. That's the real thought. Support is in the aspects of growth. Recognition is in the aspects of complacency. That means if every time you're inside of a space, that's like going, for example, if you go to the gym, you go for a walk, and it starts raining, and you mad that it started raining, you were already upset before you walked out the house. You were about to go out the house to escape while you were mad. But the support would be, maybe I need this rain. It ain't raining that hard. This is how you change the perspective. It ain't raining that hard. I can run upstairs and get an umbrella real quick. It ain't raining that hard. Maybe I need the rain to hit me in my head a little bit. Maybe I need this to clear me out a little bit. Help me think. Maybe I need this type. This is the support that I asked for. Versus the recognition of the sun coming out, and it makes it easier for you to take your path. Once again, I desire you to be the best. I want you to understand that this healing is destructive. What you felt that you're deserving, but you are not entitled. Those that do the work, the one thing is, those that do the work understand that they are not entitled without that work. The ones that feel that they are entitled, they look at the work that they've done and say that is enough. One thing that my uncle taught me, One thing that my uncle told me, I broke it down in yesterday. My uncle told me to learn from others. One of the biggest things was learning from others' choices and conditions, not dwelling in them. That was another biggest points of the apology to myself. Until I understood the power of the apology to myself, when I looked at others with what they were doing and their choices and their actions, and whether it was a mistake or whatever it was to that aspect, it would always come from a state of judgment. So I immediately felt like, ooh, I can say, ooh, you can do this, and this. I can give them a quick little go around like, hey. But when I really started sitting in it, I was like, damn, I can see why they do it. It's an equivalent. The only reason I'm able to see this is because that's something that I'm doing. Something that I'm avoiding, something that I'm not dealing with, something that I'm not sitting down with. And that's what we do in a consultation. That's what we do inside the sessions. That's what we do when we're doing this work. All I do is provide the space for you to let it all out so you can put it all on the table and let's deal with it. Consultations, readings, any other services. Ask and see what other services I provide. Let's start the dialogue today. I desire you to be the best. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, sis, for that 1111. That gratitude that you're seeking is behind that first apology. Without that first apology, all you'll seek is instant gratification. What's instant gratification to a God? What's better than that? What's instant gratification to an immortal? Let's be fucking great. I love you. You love us. Ashe.